This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.
First order of business will be approved minutes. 2024. Any questions, additions, corrections? The only thing I noticed was I thought we did talk about when people come presentations such as defense. Friends are here.
Can't hear online.
Can't hear. Do you have yours on? Oh.
See if they can hear you. Are we in now? Eric, you got me now? Oh, it's not, let's see.
Much better.
Got it? Okay. So, the only thing is I note from the minutes is I thought one of the things we did discuss was, anyone that has a larger project, that we asked that they submit the project the week before the meeting, so at least the committee members had an opportunity to review. But again, at that point, it's kind of a moot point at this point, since we are going to be talking dog park tonight, and you guys got your stuff in well beyond time. I will add one, well, okay, so with that said, can I get a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion to approve.
Okay, Desiree?
I'll second.
A second. Brian is a second. Okay, with that, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those, Eric?
I
Eric
approve.
wasn't there, so Eric's abstained. Jishva was talking about possibly joining. I'm not sure if she's out there. Jishva? Okay, so we'll go with what we've got here. Unanimous.
Oh, Eric, I abstain.
Eric abstained. He was out. He was not at the meeting. So, before we start with public speak, I just want to make a quick announcement. We're adjusting the schedule a little bit because Bill Cannon, who was here, part of the design for the dog park, is running a little late. So we're going to kind of move on to some of the other items. And then when he comes, we'll jump into the dog park. So first item up is public speak. Again, with that, I'd ask everyone to keep it to like 2 to 3 minutes unless there's something specific we want to talk about. So, and please go up to the microphone and identify yourself for Kira so that we can have it as part of the record. Is there anyone? There you go.
Hi, good evening. I'm Jeff Bagg, 49 Taft Ave, just here as a resident. What I just wanted to share was on behalf of the skate park committee. I think there was some communication, but the committee and the group tried really hard to get some plans and information to the commission. The group received some stuff on Tuesday last week, and the group really just wanted to have some additional time to go through that plan and try to meet your deadline of Wednesday. So it sounds like there was agreement and a hope and a request that the skate park can be on your next agenda.
It will be,
And
that's the plan.
offering the hybrid is really great, and the group would like to request that opportunity because the designer would like to come and share the plans on the screen and things like that. But just wanted to thank you. The group's trying really hard to, provide a plan that hopefully addresses some of the known commission concerns and then have that opportunity to discuss it with you guys. So apologies we couldn't make it happen this meeting, but we'll be back hopefully at the next meeting.
Yeah, the plan was.
Thanks.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Jeff. Is there anyone else?
I just have a clarifying question. Will there be an
Can
opportunity?
you give me your name, please?
Yes, I'm sorry, Eileen.
Sorry, Eileen, can you go up to the, sorry, Eileen.
It's so everyone online can hear
So
you.
everyone can hear you in general, the people that are coming and calling.
Hi, Eileen Jaeger, 80 Williston Ave. I just have a question at this point is, will there be an opportunity for public speak after the dog park presentation? Or is this the time to speak now?
I would say now is the time to speak.
Okay,
For the dog park? Or
well, I have some comments about the dog park and I would prefer to do them after the presentation, but if that's not possible.
Okay, okay, Johnson, for instance, it's on the agenda, yes, you can have a speak after.
Great, wonderful, thank you.
Anyone else?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Great. Let me just set up my timer. Owen Sauer at 74 Florence Road, Easthampton. I'm a 20+ year resident. Just a couple things. I want to address a couple items on your agenda. The first, obviously, is the need for a new maintenance building. It's imperative that we maintain appropriate infrastructure here in Easthampton for all of our departments. And certainly the parks is no exception. We need equipment to make sure that the park is running appropriately. The maintenance building is a glaring need. That's been a topic of discussion for some time. I know that the director and the mayor have been having conversations about this. I absolutely urge the commission to continue to review the process. I know it's on your agenda today. Review it thus far, make sure you develop and make appropriate recommendations to the director as to how to proceed. The parks obviously can't function without basic items such as this. Just as the pool is funded, we can absolutely develop a capital plan to make sure that a well-needed maintenance building is funded as well. A capital plan should be broad and inclusive of all the needs of the visions for the park. And replacing a maintenance building should take precedence, but should not occur at the exception of other projects. And this brings me to the question of the discussion of the dog park and the skate park, which I know will be discussed in September. The dog park represents ongoing discussion over the past 6 years, which was initiated with the hope of getting a Stanton grant and the opportunity for the city to have close to $300,000 in both design and build, which we lost out on due to indecision, frankly. But we have opportunities now, and there's a really great proposal in front of you tonight. The city itself has invested tens of thousands of dollars into design and planning from CPA and other sources, and there's a variety of surveys supporting not only the dog park project, but also the skate park project will be in front of you soon as well. The proposed location for the dog park is an exceptional use of space and resources in the park. My appeal to the commission regarding this project and also the skate park, which is coming up, is not to ask if you can do it, but how you're going to do it. There's demonstrable support from residents and stakeholders that's endured 6 years, 5 for the skate park, of funding community input and visioning. These should be seen as keystone projects to support broader visioning for Nonotuck and Millside parks. The community supports and the city supports should be clear here. We're here to work together to make this a reality and to move our parks into a 21st century vision. And with my additional 20 seconds, the other thing I would just plea is that occasionally your meetings, and my understanding, at least you can correct me if I'm wrong, is that the next meeting in September is going to coincide with the city council meeting. And this puts residents as well as other city employees and stakeholders in a difficult spot trying to either not make one meeting or the other. So if you consider for that meeting and all going forward that they don't coincide and conflict with city council meetings, I think that would be great for the city in general, as well as more transparency, visibility, and participation in your meetings. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? All right.
Hi, Lisa Downing, 23 Beechwood Avenue. Thank you so much for addressing the dog park issue again tonight. I am currently the secretary of the Friends of the Easthampton Dog Park. And when the commissioners gave us permission to explore Nonotuck Park at a meeting or two back, we took it and ran, and I think you're going to be really pleased with what Bill Cannon has come up with tonight. I was able to do a site visit and review those plans, and I can tell you that it is an ideal location. It's so wonderful in many ways, and while there may be, tweaks that need to be made for the integration with other park services, and or other considerations, we are super flexible to do that. We really want to get to a yes, and figure out how to make this work. So I think anything that comes up can't be overcome, and that what we're working with is such a strong, I mean, I've been involved for years now, and this plan is very exciting. I have heard that one of the concerns about this location is that the fact that the park is closed in the winter, and Councilor Zarrett sort of alluded to the fact that I think this and the skate park, you know, not to say that that's not a park consideration, but thinking about our parks and the strength of our Parks and Recreation Department and the rightful support for our Parks and Recreation Department, it will strengthen our city, and that we are very, very eager to work with you and in this capacity in any way we can to move Nonotuck Park forward into the 21st century park we believe it could be. Lastly, I would like to also state my support for addressing the dismal park maintenance buildings, and we do plan to follow up with the City Council on that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Connie Dunham. I live in Precinct 4 here in Easthampton. Just want to share my support for the dog park. I've had the pleasure of having numerous conversations with the folks who are working on it and have been advocating for it. I think that it is a really wonderful addition, not only to the park, but to the community in general. I think one of the key things that it offers, and I think if you think about who is advocating for this, we have a large number of our senior population that is advocating for the dog park. And I think that the dog park really creates a touch point for those individuals to be able to continue to create community, to be able to foster friendships, and prevent isolation within the home, right? So it's a really wonderful way for people to continue to kind of be out and enjoy the amenities that the park has to offer, that this contributes to. I also think it's a terrific opportunity for us to be able to maximize the space within the park. I think of the park as a shared space, and so the park to be able to meet a variety of different needs, a variety of different interests that suit the diverse needs of the community. And I think that the park being able to provide a variety of different amenities really speaks to the city's ability to make sure that members of the community have access to all of our resources within the city. I also want to express my commitment to the facilities within the park. I think that our employees deserve quality work environments, and you know, I've spoken to the mayor about working on that with her. I think one last piece that I'd like to talk about in terms of the dog park, I've had a number of conversations with the mayor also about finding ways of being able to access funds for a methane digester, which would allow us to be able to dispose of dog waste, right? I think that was a concern of the parks, you know, originally about what do we do with the dog waste. You know, one creative solution is to actually be able to have a methane digester, which actually allows us to be able to generate electricity, right? And so I think there's a variety of things out there that are creative that we could be able to have to be able to promote a dog park, but also promote a green park. So appreciate your time. I know these conversations are challenging and they're difficult. I respect your commitment to the commission, and I know that you have the best interest of the residents at heart. So thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else?
Hi, Elaine Wood. I'm on Oak Drive in Easthampton, and I was at the original meeting back 6 years ago now when we were trying to put a dog park in. And we had these plans up and everybody was picking which sites they wanted. And I was one of two people that did not want it in Nonotuck Park. I have since changed my mind because I thought it should be accessible to everyone and you have to pay to get in. but then you don't have to pay during the week, so you literally can go in during the week. But what we came up with a solution is to raise funds for the people that could qualify to get into the park and get them a pass. So, but I was, like I said, everybody else wanted Nantucket Park, and there were only 2 of us that didn't want it there. And I've been on the committee since its inception, and I don't even have a dog. This is how important this is to me, because I think we've been to about 10 dog parks in the state, as I travel around with a friend, and I really think we need one here. And they always use the park anyway to walk their dogs, and then they let them loose on the fields. Now we'll be able to contain them into a dog park instead of just letting them run free. So.
Is there anyone else? Okay, I'd like to just take a moment before we go on to Bill Cannon, who's here. Go through something just quickly to put as part of the public record. I don't know if everyone read it. There was an recent article in the Gazette regarding the Pepin Street School and the gym. And I know there was concerns, there was questions raised regarding the monthly costs and the park, whether the Park and Recreation could take it over, and those discussions occurred. I just want to say that I was part of the initial discussion when they were talking about all 3 schools and what usages were going to be done. And in that meeting, John Mason actually raised a concern to try to save any gym we could in the city. So that was raised at the initial, and what happened is kind of unfortunate. But what we did shortly after that, the original discussions was we did actually write a letter to the city council, the Park and Recreational Department, offering to, and I'd like to just submit the letter. Basically in the letter, I won't read the whole thing, saying that we would more than be willing to work with anyone to keep the gymnasiums here, keep that gymnasium open. But unfortunately, the Park and Rec in itself, we didn't have the personnel to keep that park in order to maintain that facility. So we were more willing to partner. Unfortunately, there was no partner. So I guess, and I can't speak for John, but we basically declined. So I just want to make sure that that's kind of out there, and submit that letter. So that's really all I got to say. And with that, I guess we'll roll into the dog park. We okay to do that now? Since he's here? My city's ready.
Which side would be the most visible for everybody?
That might be.
Probably over here.
Where?
Oh, you can see.
No,
that.
it's right here. That's good.
You at home okay?
No, I just, I was.
I have the layout in front of me, so I mean.
Yeah, you guys, you do have the mini
It'd
version.
be good to see when the points so that I can add in, like what I couldn't read
Okay.
on the small font.
I don't know if it's.
How are they gonna be able to see it online? Where's they gonna set it up?
Oh, yeah.
It was part of the agenda packet, so.
Oh,
if they
okay,
click on
so
the
they can see
agenda
it.
packet, they can
Gotcha.
zoom in.
You guys can see it all right?
Could you move it closer to where the people are sitting and then
This right here.
less head to your left?
Oh, right here, you mean?
Yeah, yeah.
More at these.
Oh, it was in the, like here at the end of the page. You got that.
I don't want to.
I can also move over there. It's easier.
Yeah.
I know,
You got it in front of you, so.
So unfortunately, this is not, so you can view it, but you've got the mini version of it, so.
You got it.
Okay, and I can try to
She gave.
compliment
Yeah,
some
maybe.
pointing if you want.
Turn it a little bit so that we can maybe see the edge of it, kind of. There you
Yeah.
go. That would be good. Just so we can see where you're pointing.
How's that for the audience?
Good.
As you see, kind
I'll try to make this short. Of course, I'm a landscape architect, so I have a tendency to ramble on a little bit. So, get a little verbose because I'm passionate about my work, my design work, design everything on the outside. I got involved with the dog park committee to help them out strictly on a volunteer basis. I can appreciate what they've been through. And so I thought it was a good opportunity to at least try to help facilitate their thoughts and their ideas on a plan that we can at least kind of talk about and everything else. So my relationship with the committee started, about a year ago or so. We looked at a number of different spaces. I know the dog park committee has been looking all over the town and everything else, and God bless them for their efforts and perseverance here and everything else. But we thought we might do kind of like a little bit of a plan of the play lot over at Strong and Plain Street as a first blush try to approach. And now the commission does, you do not have this plan, so I apologize, but yeah, right. So, but it's all part of kind of building up to where we want to be is what we've done in the past and everything else. So I thought I'd at least kind of like broach that subject a little bit and everything else. So we looked at this playground. Now it's a playground. And what we tried to do was to investigate the possibilities of that space being shared with a dog park. And even though I went through this pre-picture process here and everything else, we just felt that it just wasn't big enough. We've got a kind of a space that we were trying to allocate here, about 11,000 square feet. That's like about 25% of what we really kind of need to make it a good park. Plus, I felt it was really kind of taking away the play space, you know, for the playground and everything else. So we kind of put it on the back burner and came around to approaching the Parks and Recreation Commission about bringing it into Nanotuck Park. And I know we were there once before and everything else, but seeing how I was on board, I was able to kind of prepare something on paper that we could kind of like at least look at and kind of lend some intelligence into how it was going to function and everything else. Basically, this is the site. It's a lot of line drawing and everything else, but what the site that the park commission thought might be appropriate for the dog park lies between the main roadway that goes by the pool and the parking lot that accommodates the baseball hub. And it's a wooded area in here. As you can see, there's a pavilion number 3 down here. There's a restrooms in here. There's also some restrooms over in here. And so it's a wooded area right in between those buildings. And I just wanted to kind of, I'll just kind of give you this. This is the plan of the park right here. Okay. I can pass these around if you'd like, pass them around or anything else. There's kind of a woods road that cuts through the wooded area between the 2 restrooms. And so that kind of defines this area in the middle. It's completely wooded and very level. It had a lot of attributes going for it from an accessibility standpoint, accommodating users of the dog park, and also having enough room for what I felt was trying to accommodate some buffer areas. In other words, this would the space wouldn't be right on top of other functional and usable areas in the park. So this was developed from an aerial photograph of this, and we kind of scaled it appropriately, so it's fairly accurate. And we came up with this plan that utilizes the space, accommodates some of the wooded areas surrounding the dog park, which we would kind of leave undisturbed. And the dog park would be enclosed with a fence. And then within that fence, there would be a space that would be created for use by the dogs. Now, there's some idiosyncrasies that go on with the use of dog parks, and we've got little dogs, we've got big dogs, and sometimes they all don't get along with each other. You know how that goes if you're a dog. So there's some spaces that are subdivided in here as well to accommodate the different size dogs. Plus, we wanted to put introduce some other elements within the space, like pathways, areas we call them activity areas, where we introduce elements for dogs to kind of actively be engaged in playing themselves with other dogs or with their masters and that kind of stuff. And that the site would be accessed from the existing parking area that accommodates the baseball diamonds, which are south of this plan right in here. So the large parking area over in here, I felt was a pretty advantageous point of entry for the dog park. There's parking there that's already existing. I felt that there's no reason why there couldn't be some shared use of this parking lot during certain times. We know that other times it's intensively used as parking lot for the baseball tournaments and all kinds of stuff. But there still is a feeling there that there's no reason why, there couldn't be some accommodations in here for the people that want to use the dog park. I have no idea how many people would want to come to the dog park yet. It all depends on how popular it is, how well known it is in the town. But I can't help but think that it would be kind of like a nice element to introduce into the park, for the people that do have the dogs in their butts. Unfortunately, the city is kind of getting bombarded with all kinds of special interest groups, pickleball and everything else. And we're trying to accommodate all of it. This guy over here is trying to maintain it all and keep some semblance of civility with all the different uses. I happen to think that this is kind of like more of a passive use, not very, where there's a lot of high activity, a lot of big noise, unless there's a little bit of a disagreement between a small dog and a big dog, whatever. So we can think about all those we want every once. The thought is that once we contain the dog park area with a fencing, and I'm kind of envisioning some low maintenance type of fencing, maybe 4.5, 5 feet high, vinyl clad black, so that from all the roadways around, you wouldn't even really see it. It wouldn't be highly visible, and it would be highly maintainable. Plus, it would be set back through some existing trees that would be saved around the total perimeter. That we would judiciously go through the space that is fenced in and remove a lot of the small trees, that kind of stuff, and try to save the bigger trees, what I like to call signature trees, like the big trees and everything else, that create a lot of shade. And they're also kind of like hubs that dogs like to run around and everything else besides kind of like running on the pathways and all that. I've kind of illustrated that and highlighted it in that we would definitely want to go in there and very judiciously prune out the trees that are going to be susceptible to us from a high maintenance standpoint, and then keep the really nice trees. A lot of oaks in there. Most of them I think are pretty healthy, but that's something that we'll have to lend a discerning eye to once we get in there and kind of define the space. But the other thing that the dog park committee was concerned about was creating enough space for the dog park. So we needed about 1.5 acres. And so this area right here represents the fenced area represents 1.5 acres. So it's a good size and will be plenty of space to accommodate the functions between the small dog areas and the bigger dog areas and the pathways and all that kind of stuff. I also think that it's very it's within an area where especially the users, they're close to bathrooms, so bathrooms, they can be accommodated with the bathrooms. And they're going to need some access for potable water. So I think somewhere on this parking lot there is water. I notice there's a hydrant out there, and also there's going to be some feeding for the water for the hydrant that I think we can kind of tap off. This is something we'll have to talk to the park commission and John about. But that is a possibility for supplying the needed water source that we need for the dog park. They're going to need it for drinking, going to need it for cooling off or washing down some of the paved areas at the main entrances to the park. And that's the other thing that we're going to do is within the main entrance, there'll be secondary entrances that will lead you into the different parks for the smaller dogs and for the bigger dogs. There's a whole system going on there of control for entry into the space. This particular plan that might be kind of nice, so we do a little bit of a gazebo for dog use. They can sit under. There's some additional shade, but a nice little structure in there kind of punctuates the entry space to the dog park as well. I do want to just mention that's kind of like it, and basically, our basic thoughts about the whole thing. My thoughts on it. I have some other thoughts about how, I think it's pretty good that there's a possibility that it could share the parking area with some other uses. I always think a shared use is much more efficient than having separate individual, uses that are only used specific times and everything else. I know this gets a lot of use, but that's kind of like always been my mantra when I'm going through some design of different projects and everything else. I mentioned first thing I started off with was looking at the Strong Road play lot area as a possibility. I also looked at a site, and it's kind of highlighted on the map that the commission had, that is slightly south of Booster Field. Everybody knows where Booster Field is. So south of it would be along the first base line. So I was asked by the dog park committee to kind of take a look at the site to see what I thought of it and everything else. The things, and so what I noticed walking through the site is that it's sloped from Booster Field down to wetlands. And the wetlands obviously dictate some environmental issues and everything else. And then you've got wetland buffers that dictate a regulated, strongly regulated area. I measured up from where I felt the wetland was 100 feet. And it only gave us about 50 feet of upland area between that and the first baseline of Booster Field. This is on the roadway that goes kind of down to the pump station. I don't know if you're familiar with it or not. That was the other thing that kind of not impressed but depressed me too, was the accessibility to this area. You'd be kind of hard pressed to kind of accommodate any kind of users. No parking there. It's kind of tight. It's a driveway that goes to the pump station, and you know, it just doesn't kind of accommodate where the accessibility issue. And as I mentioned, there's a very little upland area left to Booster Field that would accommodate the area size that we need. Plus the fact that it wouldn't even allow for any kind of buffer areas around a potential dog park space as well. So I just wanted to kind of like bring that to the attention of the commission as well. It's noted on that plan. There's a star asterisk on it that I looked at that area as an alternative. And then you can also see where this space is within that map there. It's kind of in a strong red dashed line. So those are my thoughts on the potential for this particular site. I actually think it's, you know, there may be some issues with sharing the parking lot and everything else. I actually think this is a pretty good space for the use of the dog park, if I do say so myself, from a landscape architect standpoint. Now I know there's some other, you know, there's some other issues that John Mason's going to have to address, and the Parks Commission is going to have to address as a whole in terms of, you know, the whole park and everything else. But that's our thoughts on it at this point.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you, Bill.
Any questions?
Thank you.
Rough estimate cost wise, do you have any idea?
No idea.
No idea.
No idea. I wouldn't even dare approach that at this point because, you know, I think this is only a concept plan and a proposal. So, you know, we want to take one step at a time here first. John did ask me some dimensional issues around the fence itself. And I measured it quickly back at my office, John, and everything else. I got about 1,000, little over 1,000 linear feet of perimeter fence. Okay, that's starting from point A and kind of going around here. It's about 400 feet by about 180 feet or so in width. Again, it's about 1.5 acres, which is that seems to be the real sweet spot for accommodating these the dog park uses.
Can I speak on the funding part of it? Can I? John?
Sure.
I just want everybody to be aware that we don't intend on the Parks and Rec paying for this. We intend on doing fundraising and getting grants. So, but in order to get a grant, we have to have the plans approved. We have to have a site. So this is just the first, okay, the 10th step. that we need the plan and the site before we can go get grants. And I mean, we've already started fundraising. We've already, you know, we've got it. We're a nonprofit now. We've got funds in there, but in order to get further, we need that, and we need this approval.
Understood.
So.
Yeah, and if I also could chime in, I mean, that's why I kind of felt I could kind of help this committee out a little bit and helping prepare the plans. At some point in time, I know through the funding process and everything else, I can get kind of reimbursed for some of my time. But I'm working up front with them and investing some time to help them through this process. We'll, depending on what the funding agencies will require, we can carry these plans to whatever detail they need, including some probable cost estimates for the any kind of application.
I have some questions. How close is it to the pavilion? Can you give like an approximate feet?
Yeah, so
Approximately 50.
Pavilion 3 is right here.
Mhm.
Okay, so we're about 75 feet away from the pavilion to the fence, to the southerly fence.
Okay.
Of the dog park area. Now that leaves some room in there. It's about 50 feet of it to kind of leave undisturbed with some of the trees. I know it's only 50 feet. Everybody has their own idea about buffers and everything else, but that's where we could be at in terms of providing the 1.5 acres that we really kind of desire for the size of the park.
Yeah, when we talk about space, initially you had talked about the first drawing of 11,000 square feet.
Right.
I did a little quick math. This proposal is 65,340
Right.
square feet.
1.5 acres, yeah.
1.5 acres.
Yeah.
Little Google search, 1/2 acre to an acre seems to be the average size of dog parks. So my concern is the pavilion, right? I think we have enough space to work with here where we could kind of configure something a little bit away from the pavilion. Who people are coming, they're purchasing that, they want their parties or whatnot. I don't want to encroach on their space either.
I think, I've always felt, plans are made to be changed.
Sure.
Okay, so, there are a lot of there's lots of input that comes into creating these plans and everything else. And if there's a desire, and I'm sure the dog park committee can kind of work with it to enhance that buffer area, whatever, if it's going to be 100 feet or 120 feet, then that's something that we will need to work with. And since we're up around 1.5, 1.6 acres in there, I feel we've got a little bit of room, a little flex in there to kind of, respect the functions of some of the other activity that's going on. So I think that's something we can kind of work with.
And I think an opportunity here is ADA accessible bathroom, having a pathway from that bathroom to a dog park. Right, so I don't want to miss out on that part of a design, as well as possibly an opportunity to create more parking. I know on the opposite side of Booster Field, people would park there anyway for the games, and I believe that was spec'd out for parking at one point.
Oh, yeah, you mean along this roadway here?
Correct.
Yeah,
If there's
they
an
park there big time.
If there's an
Oh, yeah.
opportunity to
Yeah.
make that parking again and kind of make that dog park parking or what have you, kind of adds to that, because it gets really congested on some of those games for parking. So
Yeah.
that could be an opportunity as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think at this point, we need to gather all the information,
Sure.
and the advice and the needs of everybody here and kind of see where that can kind of go. To add some more parking along here, that's, I mean, we could do that now, but I know that John kind of goes nuts with all the parking around all the peripheral roadways and everything else, and it's a serious concern because it adds to all the traffic
Right.
congestion, and it's just a big, it's a big mess and everything else. I dare say there may be a little bit of room to increase this parking area at the baseball hub. I mean, we'd have to think about it a little bit more and everything else. I'd have to put my thinking cap on.
That
But
pretty much borders that's right up against the pavilion though.
well, I'm
think he
saying
means
kind of going
into the
this way
dog
here, going northwards, maybe a little bit.
Picnic tables and everything else right there, no? I was
In the
just
woods,
looking at it.
where the dumpster is and they put the dirt.
There is plans from 30 years ago that George told me that regarding if there was gonna be a phase two for parking for that area, that it was in that area there and then north of it as well. And there's actually drainage already in there, that was set up for parking. So, and that, I believe it's kind of overgrown. Well, it's actually really overgrown in there now. But George, it's probably pretty close to where some of the fencing is, but there'd have to be spec'd out to exactly where that is. And one of the things I told Bill, because Bill's been very good about coming in the office, and we've been talking about this a lot over the last month, is to get maybe some pink ribbons or things that kind of define the outside area of what they're proposing. That way, when you're in the park, you can see it. And like if you go up to the Pavilion 3 grill and you look and there's the fence right there, you'll be like, you know, I think we need to move it 25 feet or whatever it may be. I think adding a visual, everybody can look at a piece of paper, but adding a visual, especially when it's capable of being on site, then you can kind of move with it. Like, you know, we can go more here or less here or things like that. So it can
Absolutely. We can, can stake it out. We can stake it out and I can
it doesn't have to be anything elaborate. It's just kind of a, you know,
and, flag it and everything else,
yeah,
you know,
just flagging
so
it.
we can, that's a good tool to use to kind of really help everybody visualize, you know, the relationship of things to kind of the existing conditions. So that could be a step that we take. You know, if we get to a point where everybody feels, yeah, this has some possibilities and everything else, let's kind of like investigate a couple other things and everything else. I'm frankly a little shy about kind of going full steam ahead with everything, and I think the dog park committee is the same way. You know, until we can kind of get some voice in here that, you know, that feels positive about it.
The alternate site,
Yes.
me personally, I'd want to look at to see if it's feasible. I agree that alternate site is probably not the best.
It's way too small. It's
However,
way too small.
If you look at the outfield of Milne and Coughlin, right, there's a wooded area there in those little league fields that's between the road that goes out to the soccer complex. There's a wooded area there
Oh,
that
way down here.
right here.
No, right next to Mill.
Right here. Okay, adjacent to the hub, yeah.
Correct. That area there, you know, there's options, right? So anyone that would be opposed to this option, maybe that's a better option.
And that was on this, there was work done, and Jeff can correct me, but the skate park, design and Montauk looked at the area at that as one of their options for Montauk.
Or the pickle, that stretching of the pickleball.
Yeah, behind the pickleball and under there.
Well, if you parked here and then you're here.
So,
Yeah, so correct me if I'm wrong, there's a roadway that goes down through there that gives you access from the baseball hub to the soccer complex, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
So
so there's a dirt
maintenance.
road and then the
And then the
paved
woodland.
road.
Yeah,
in
right.
between those two.
Yeah. You know, my gut feeling is it's awfully tight. I did the baseball hub, so I kind of know the
Right.
area a little bit and everything else too. So, you know, to kind of keep the access road in there and everything else, it strikes me like that would be really tight in there, really narrow, and wouldn't allow any kind of like running space and everything else for the dogs and all that kind of stuff, you know? And I think it'd be, pardon me for saying so, but it would be too close to the fence and everything else for the baseball field. So you'd have all this fencing all over the place and everything else, and I'm not sure that's you know, how that would kind of fit together visually. So
Yeah.
my initial gut reaction on it.
Sure. You good?
What happened to the original over by the metal playground kind of area? That was my understanding when it was brought up the last time, where the old metal playground was, and you guys were talking about Nonotuck Park. It was more like, you kind of hit the nail on the head. We are cramming everything into this little tiny area that is already jam-packed. Never mind,
Talk
like
about
the,
Nonotuck Park.
yeah, well, I mean, like the sports complex area, I guess you
Yeah.
could call it. I mean, there's already no parking at soccer. We're adding another pickleball. There's already no parking at baseball. Now we're talking about adding an entrance to another dog park that's gonna bring more people. When it was originally, I appreciate the information regarding the Plain and Strong, because when I first got this, I was like, wait, why are we still just doing one location? So I appreciate kind of the comparison to show this is why we're not gonna look at that. It's a small area, so that's out of my brain now.
And also that site area down by adjacent to Booster, for what it's worth.
Yeah, I know that, this is
Yeah,
the first
that I
time I'm
elaborate.
hearing about
Yeah.
Booster. The one that I was,
asked to look at that.
yeah, oh,
By
okay.
the dog park committee as maybe a possible alternate. And we understood that we had, part of our presentation was to kind of, at least keep an open mind and look at a couple other alternatives, everything else. And we certainly thought that this Strong Road intersection was a good one to bring forward as a comparison of what's not going to work for us.
Yeah, I'd be curious to see the other side of the park, because we also talked about this ADA potential playground that's gonna be on that side as well. So it's just, there's a lot of open space on this side, and I was wondering why that wasn't kind of touched on and why it wouldn't be an option over there.
Yeah,
Well, I all I can say is I wasn't asked
Okay.
to go to take a look at that area. If that's something that, would be part of our due diligence and everything else, then
yeah.
that's something that, I can talk to the dog park committee about that.
yeah, see, but my concern is kind of along the same as hers. That whole area is so congested already. And on a weekend, there's just, we're packing. Now, and the other, to get to Brian's thing, you've got 2 pavilions on either side, and those aren't like campsites where you're gonna have 6 people. You're gonna have 100 people in there. You're gonna have grills going for not like for a half an hour, but for like multiple hours. And it's just, you've got a lot of interaction that could happen over there versus, I think the design's beautiful, but that location, I mean, I did some research too. I looked at like 7 different dog parks in the area, and there's none of them that put a dog park anywhere near the congestion that this area is looking at. I mean, I looked at Agawam, East Windsor, Simsbury, Granby, South Hadley, Westfield. They're all kind of some of them are at ball fields, but they're remotely away from the ball field. This is just, for me, clutter-wise, it just seems like a lot.
So let me just reiterate, the dog parks that I have visited, everything else, it strikes me like that this is not a real intensive use. As I mentioned a little while back, that I really consider this kind of like a passive use. Maybe there's 10 cars at, I don't know, 15, maybe, I don't know, maybe in a real intensively used area.
But 15 cars when you've got 4 ball fields on a Saturday morning, or 5 ball fields on a Saturday morning, somebody at both pavilions occupied. I mean, you already don't have room for what you don't really have room. We don't have room for what we've got there now. Yeah. And we're adding something. That's, I guess, my biggest concern.
Yeah. Well, I think the dog park committee is hearing this, so go ahead.
Yeah, I was wondering kind of, you talked about shared use of the parking and it being efficient, and I really appreciate that. I think that way too. I'm just wondering about putting the entrance on the other side near the other bathrooms, closer to where the pool parking is. Thinking, and my worry is that when baseball is congested, people trying to use the dog park at certain areas wouldn't have parking. And then they'd have to park really far away, and then it's less accessible for the group we said needs more accessibility for parking. Like, it'd be a shorter distance to ride in, park there, and then walk across the street.
Almost like flipping it on its head.
Yeah,
What's that?
like
Like
flipping the
flipping it
entrance to the opposite
Oh,
end.
okay, I mean, I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility, you know?
I'm
you
just
know,
curious about like why you chose there instead of there. Was there like a
Well,
roadblock you considered initially and that's why this seemed like the better? I'm just trying to understand.
Okay, so my gut feeling when I'm initially looking at this site and everything else is that I thought it was a kind of an ideal entry point, shortest possible route from you know, a parking facility that's already built. Struck me like that would be the ideal kind of approach to the design. And so that's what we're kind of running with here right now. But I think if there's some strong thoughts about maybe, you know, looking at accessibility from the other side so that we don't infringe on, you know, the parking requirements down there, and maybe you know, they could share some of the parking at the pool site.
And
I
there's
don't
two
know how
handicap
intensively
spots right
that's
by the
used.
bathroom.
There, and there's bathrooms right there. There's these bathrooms right here. We just have to, you know, visibility wise, you know, we just got to kind of like design something that makes it a little bit of visible and accessibility, access. You know, there's a paved sidewalk that kind of comes off of the intersection where the roadway goes to the pool and the parking area that swings around to the restrooms, and you know, maybe that gets a little bit more played up and everything else to kind of allow this as kind of like the main entrance point rather than down here. You know, it's something that we could kind of look at. I'm sure there's a water line that, yeah, but I don't know if it's big enough, or, you know, that's something we have to, I have to kind of, you know, pick your brain about where, you know, that source might come from to service, you know, the dog park. But at this point, I mean, I think the dog park committee here is looking at all the concerns and hearing everything, taking in all of your input, everything else, and then we can kind of look at things as well.
And then a follow-up to that, would it be not a reasonable thing to have two entrances, one at either? Because sometimes there's going to be no one parked at the baseball fields, and that will be the quickest way to get there. And other times, if it's busy, like it creates more flexibility, but is that really going to increase the cost, or it's not possible in the design?
Well, it's typically, the parks are designed with a entrance for control and access of the dogs. And that access point then allows for, if you will, like a little bit of an outdoor vestibule area where you could then access the big dog park or the little dog park. And if we have two entrances, then we got two vestibules, we got double the amount of access points in there. It becomes a real nightmare to kind of do that. So typically these dog parks have one kind of access point. And that's where, you know, all the signage is, the rules for use and all that kind of stuff are at that entrance.
Can I speak to the map a little bit about some of the questions you had? So I have a handicap placard, so I know all about ADA and I help build a playground. And one of the reasons we picked over here is we thought we could put a handicap space here. But if we need to, we can use this side, we can flip it, and that'll give more of a buffer here. If we flipped it here, John, is there a way to put more parking here?
There's two in front of the
Well, I know, but two,
bathroom
like
already.
more than two?
I don't know this.
Yeah, I'm
I
just
wasn't
saying,
involved in these plans, so I'm not sure.
If we flipped it, there'd be more of a buffer here, and we just put a couple extra, but we were trying to keep a buffer the entire area, so it wouldn't, you know, to keep it separate from the rest of the park. But I don't see why we couldn't move it over here.
Yeah, that's why I was talking to Bill, like knowing, so we can look
Yeah.
at this and look at plans.
Right,
But
but the whole
having
point
a
of,
defined area.
Yeah, the
what you're
whole point
looking
was
at, then you
because
can
of
look and say,
handicap.
yes, there is possibility.
Right.
You know, on a couple of these trees that are on his, you know, two of them fell down over the weekend, so two monster ones right there.
Not the ones I colored.
It's helping you out.
Yeah, so but there's already two. One landed on a car and thank God they're safe, but.
I don't know, it's uncanny how I colored in the ones that fell down.
Yeah.
But this is handicap parking. I think there's
There's
two
two placards
spaces
over
out
there
here
for
right now.
handicap.
Okay.
And then
And,
that's the.
you know, that
restroom
could
that's
be-
handicap.
It's a little rough right now and certainly could be enhanced and kind of, you know, finessed a little bit for the handicap, parking, aspect of it. But, my other thought to dovetail onto yours is that if we do this, put the entrance over in here, I also hear them about, you know, kind of giving them a little bit more of a buffer to pavilion 3 and everything else. So we take that into consideration. But, you know, if we can share the parking over at the pool, I don't know, you know, that maybe that is a possibility.
I think in the end, I mean, I don't, if you know, Desiree, you can have one question.
No, you can go first.
Well, no, I was just gonna say, I think at this point, I think we may all agree that probably the best bet to go right now would be to kind of do the, as John, tape it all off and kind of get a look at it rather than, I mean, we can try to redesign it all night. It's not really gonna get us anywhere.
Right.
Yeah, I like the idea. Like I said, I appreciate that you brought up the other side because again, that was my first, wait, what happened to all the other options? I am a visual person, so I would love to see it put off. We talk about the buffer between the pavilion, but in my thoughts of seeing this dog park and how you have it set up, you would end up putting the area where kind of just the dogs are kind of running more free in that back area would be towards the pavilion. And it's not going to be where potentially people are going to be congregating to chat while their dogs are playing in a way. So you
Might be better.
have a little bit of it, but am I not making sense?
I missed your point.
So
Well, if
basically,
you like
take
flip
away the
it, you're not
entranceway.
putting the entranceway by where the pavilion is. You're putting where more of like dogs are going to be playing and running around where the pavilion's sitting.
I think what she's saying is you get extra buffer.
Yeah.
And from that entrance, you get extra buffer. If you switch it, you're gonna basically have the end of your, if you flip it, where your fences are, where there's gonna be dogs, is gonna be closer actually to pavilion 3 than if you leave the entrance where it is.
The dogs are gonna be where the people
I
are.
mean, yeah, the dogs are going to be everywhere. I'm just saying, yeah.
She's right.
I'm still, I don't, you mean if we take this entrance and put it over here?
Yeah.
That would switch the, that would move that fencing closer in general to the,
Well, I guess I'm coming from the perspective that, you know, we may have to live with a little less space.
Yeah, it
Okay.
potentially gives you a
And
little.
so,
more area.
you know, kind of bring this back a little bit to whatever we kind of agree upon is a sufficient buffer.
Mhm.
I mean, you know, there's no point in doing it when, you know, I could take this perimeter and kind of put some stakes in the ground and then you can kind of really see it and say, oh, okay, let's move it back 25 or 100 feet or
Yeah.
50. And then I can kind of reflect that then on the plan.
and again, I get you go big or go home.
Right.
But based on some of the reading I've done too.
Well, that's my
it's
motto.
It's like an acre, you typically half an acre to an acre is a normal and you're already beyond that, so.
Yeah, so I'm pretty comfortable with the fact that, you know, we got 1.4, you know, acre, 1.35, 1.3. I don't think that's a make or break situation,
Okay.
really.
Like I
And
said,
plus, I'm really an advocate for, you know, kind of creating some kind of buffers
Right.
around the roadways and everything else. I'm a big fan of that. And, you know, that's something that I would really work with everybody on to try to maximize whatever we can from that.
trust me, I've done more reading about dog parks in the last month than I think I've ever done in 63 years of my life, so.
And you want to make it organic, that it was been there the whole time instead of we're trying to cram everything we can in one small area.
Well, yeah, I mean, I, as a landscape architect, okay, I'm
I
pretty
appreciate that.
sensitive to
Right.
kind of creating environments, new environments that kind of fit in
Mhm.
and don't look out of place and, you know, are kind of harmonious with its surroundings, blah, 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 and all that kind of stuff.
Is there
Yeah.
anybody, I know somebody had some, anyone, there you go. Sister, feel free, unless.
I'm a visual, so I'd love to do kind of like you're saying is mapping everything out so we can see it, but I would also really love to know your opinion on that other area.
That
Again, if you've
backyard
never
area.
looked at it, but
Well,
and it
that's
could be
something.
similar to the other one where it's just you walk by and it's like, this isn't gonna work right
I
away.
think that's
but-
something that I could meet with,
Yeah.
the dog park committee on where specifically you're talking about and kind of look at it and see.
I agree.
I'm
Desiree.
kind
That
of
was
taking
what
some
we-
directions from them.
Yeah.
So,
And just, I mean, again, I'm on a lot of the boards, so I feel like I could speak for the baseball board to say that they're strongly against this. I think the main thing is because of the entrance and you mentioned the weekends, and I get the pavilions are taking up a lot of the weekends, but if you've ever been down there during the week, it's an absolute nightmare. Never mind the congestion of getting in and out, it's a safety hazard. I mean, there's been numerous times we've tried to get down to soccer, and if any of those kids get hurt, there's no ambulance entrance. Nobody's getting in there because of how people are just kind of, I'll just park here and that's okay. So
well,
adding one more thing down there to put people, instantly I was like,
okay,
this is
so,
crazy.
you know, right away, I mean, you've convinced me that, you know, a better situation would be to kind of flip that entry. If
Yeah.
that's all right with the
And it'd be
dog park
somewhat simple.
committee, then we can kind of look at that and we can look at how it's going to be accessible from the parking area at the pool. I'm, you know, that's something we, you know, it's kind of pretty important to us and we want to pay some attention to it.
Okay. Kira's good, right?
Yeah, I just wanna, regardless if the dog park goes here or not, parking's an issue there. And so I'm glad this is bringing this up because I think it needs to be addressed regardless. And so I think this is a good opportunity that we're looking at all these plans and all these spaces. So again, that we're addressing everybody's needs and more parking is gonna benefit having the dog park there, having baseball be there more safely, having everyone trying to get through to be able to get in and out safely. So I like that we're having this conversation.
Right, and I'll just lend my last little anecdote right in here. I'm sorry, but, you know, whenever I design these facilities and everything else to meet certain needs and functions, and I have a program, well, we need something for 100 cars or whatever. Well, 5 years later, guess what? Now we need 200 cars.
Right.
There's always a time when things start to kind of like, you know, expand and everything. And it's a never ending challenge to try to meet the demands, everything else. And I know, you know, John is trying to do with this park. He has a lot of pressure on him and different interests and everything else. So
It's a good problem to
appreciate
be in, that the park is growing and the attendance at the park is growing and we're trying to bring more in, so.
Is that, okay, you're up? Anyone else? No, you're up.
Hi, Eileen Jager, 80 Williston Ave. I've owned my home there since 1991. And I have loved Nantucket Park every day. I walk my dog or I'm riding my bicycle in that park. And over the 31 years of living so close by, I've seen a lot of growth and a lot of changes happen in the park. And I'm late in joining this conversation. I want to appreciate all of the time and energy and blood and sweat and tears and heart that people have put into it. And the conversation tonight has been wonderful, to be brainstorming how to take your beautiful design and make it even better, you know, with maybe flipping the entrance. But what I want to name are some of my concerns, and some of them have been already named, so I appreciate that. ADA accessibility. Yes, maybe a handicap bathroom can go in, but that doesn't speak to the fact that the park is open to the public for 6 months or so of the year, and it's closed for 6 months of the year. So why on earth would you be investing however much money it's going to take to put the dog park into a place that people who need to drive to get there, like I'm fortunate, I can walk. I don't need to drive to go for a walk. Like I value that in my life. And so I don't know that you'll get any grants if it's not ADA accessible 24/7 for 12 months out of the year. So I just want to name that. And safety is the other really big thing. Like there's ball games, there's people having picnics, there's summer camp with kids. I love the idea. Somebody mentioned a methane generator. I pick up other people's dog poop every day. in the woods, right? I always have bags in my pocket. And when I see someone who didn't pick up their poop, I will offer them a bag. Oh, did you need a bag? Right? Like, I'm kind of militant about it. And oftentimes people who are in dog parks are like, blah, blah, blah. I don't have to do it. You know, someone else will do it.
Yeah.
Well, that's actually not acceptable, especially in Nonotuck Park. You've got people and kids, right? And safety. My friends, we're talking about safety here, and lives are at risk. And that big giant tree that just went down at Pavilion 3, we're having more microbursts. Our neighborhood is Microburst Alley. There have been at least 5 in the last 5 years. I know because 3 of them impacted my property. Now, what happens when you take down more trees in a park? You're creating more space for more wind to go through, for more microbursts. So any trees that come down need to be really selected, and which ones are saved also really selected. But in the bigger picture, I'll name it, I'm a tree hugger, right? Like, why do we need to take down more trees? I want to speak for the green space in the park, that every time you're putting in more parking, you're saving more green space. Like, I have seen the park been developed, all the baseball fields, the soccer fields. I remember when that was trees. And it's wonderful to have it all, but you've already named it. Can we have it all? Can we have the pickleball? Can we have, you know, the bike park, we're not even talking about a bike park, a bike path, right? Let's talk about safety. I'm either walking or riding my bike in that park. I almost have gotten nailed by cars, by people who are driving too fast. Hello, can we have a speed check at some point? Going down the hill because mom or dad is late getting their kids to soccer practice? I love the idea of a dog park. I don't think that Nonotuck Park is the best place for it. And I know this committee has worked so hard to find something. But, you know, I hear there is actually no contamination at Ferry Street. Yes, there is at Millside. Why hasn't Ferry Street been looked at as a serious location? I'm sorry?
It has.
I'm late to the conversation. I've had loved ones die and things going on in my life, so I'm late to the conversation.
Let me just chime in for a minute. Ferry Street is kind of a hornet's nest right now, if I can use that term a little bit loosely. There's nothing that's been developed there.
What a wonderful opportunity to
Well,
take something and create something with it, rather than taking away what's already there.
Okay, so there needs to be an enormous contribution financially to work on this area on Ferry Street, as I understand it. I haven't looked at it in depth. I've been kind of studying a little bit from the edges, but the city needs to do, and I haven't seen one, and I'm not sure that there is one of a master plan of that area, and to kind of like look at what kind of functional uses can be accommodated and everything else. Bottom line is, though, that the cost that would be incurred for these different facilities is astronomical. And it's almost to a point where they're not going to happen. Okay, unless there's a huge infusion of some kind of grant money. Now, maybe that can come about or whatever. But I think from the perspective.
Or, I think we're way off topic. We already discussed this at a different meeting, and the minutes from that meeting are publicly available.
Okay.
So I just want to stick to your points about Nonotuck Park.
Okay, I apologize.
No, you were trying to answer her question. I just want to, we have a lot on the agenda, and I just want to keep to the agenda.
Yes.
I just bottom line is that I'm looking at this as a reasonable approach from a reasonable cost standpoint. And I think some of the issues about, you know, traffic control, you know, accessibility, can be dealt with.
Mm-hmm. How about the safety aspect? The first time somebody's dog is running after because they smell a burger and their dog gets hit by a car because mom is late getting to soccer practice.
You know, I
Right?
think
Like-
honestly, that could happen in any occasion. So I don't, you know, that's fine. You know, we could be anecdotal about it and everything else. You know, what if a tree fell down and
Okay,
Or somebody
I
that
think at this
you know.
point, the points have been made and been documented. I think we're good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Real quick, I just want, Eric had made a comment. I don't know if
I can't
we,
read that.
okay,
wait
you
for
read
everybody.
it. Do you want me to read it for him, or Eric, do you want to chime in, or?
And he just wrote it and said, just wanted to note that these two pavilions in questions 2 and 3 also host Camp Montauk during the summer months from Monday through Friday, in addition to serving as function spaces on weekends.
It was brought up, but I just wanted
Constant
to.
use. Okay,
I
thank
was
you.
waiting
Bruce.
on everybody else was.
Thank you, Eric. All right, is there anything else? I think we've been round and round for this. All right,
Welcome.
thank you. Okay, thank you, everyone. I think if we come to an agreement, you're gonna try to map that out a little bit. So for next meeting, we'll add this to the agenda for next meeting.
Well, don't we have to do like a field trip if you're actually
yeah,
gonna map it out
it
though?
would be a field
You
trip
mean
of
like
some
physically,
sort.
yeah.
So, well, we can schedule.
Well,
skate
I'll
park.
have to work up. I'll
Let's
see
work
what
it
I
out.
can,
We'll see
you know,
what we can
there's
do.
a,
Set up a specific meeting. We've
There's
done it
some
before.
Ian, if the September one, we have skate park and then we move up October's meeting earlier to meet time,
We'll
so
have
it's
to
not a
work out
big
the
lag.
logistics.
We could always move it up.
logistically,
So.
I need some time to kind of do it.
Okay.
I have to talk to the dog park committee
All right, that's
about
fine.
it and everything else, so
Okay.
it'll take us a little while to
Well,
kind
we can talk about it again. We'll talk a little bit more in September, but at this point, we'll wait. Decide
Yeah,
to
we
schedule.
wouldn't
We'll
be
schedule
flexible
a
with the
site visit, much like we did for the skate
Schedule.
park.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'd love a
thanks.
site visit, and also if you could just, I don't know, if you happen to be in the park, just drive by that area just to give your opinion on it.
No,
Other side.
we will make a point. That
Thank
will
you.
be something else that we will discuss.
I just want to make, I mean, again, it's growing and we're getting a lot more people in there. There's more areas that are actually open that you might not have to take any of the trees down in that area because there's a little bit more open space that you could maybe incorporate. But also it's,
I'd have to see what size it is.
we can maybe start planning for other things that might be wanting to come into the park as well and make sure that we're not overflowing.
Please take a look.
One more?
We were told we couldn't use that site because there were lady slivers there. That was the first site we were looking at. And we were told we couldn't use it because there's lady slivers.
The one that's
Then
near,
I've been found
the
just
old
lady slippers.
playground that
Yes.
had that like.
Isn't that
metal-
where it was, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we were told we couldn't use that site. We were told to look at this site.
Much closer to Pavilion One.
This was the first one that I've heard of this site, so that's why I just didn't.
Yeah, no, there was
When we
another
met
one
the
that-
last time when we brought up Nonotuck Park, it was still mentioning that area where the,
Yeah, no, we were told we
Playground.
couldn't use that.
That's
So
where
Yeah,
we
that's-
see,
wanted it.
so I'm kind of like responding to
Yeah.
their requests here and everything else, some
Right.
of that history.
So we'll have to investigate the lady slipper thing and. you know,
I mean, to me, right off the top of my head, that means there may be some regulated areas there. Or wetland,
conservation.
yeah.
We can have, well, we can confirm.
I don't know.
We can confirm and see how that works. One way or another.
All right, just for the notes, the next step will be for Bill to meet with the dog park committee and they will set up a field visit and let the commission know when that is. And we anticipate an October
Sometime
meeting, an early October
Yeah,
meeting
so-
where we can
Yeah.
revisit. Okay.
Just so we can kind of do a field visit, look at the perimeter of this proposal right here.
Set a time at the
Right.
park discussion.
Guys,
Sounds perfect.
thanks so much for your patience.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate it.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, Jen.
Thank you. Thank you.
Put that microphone to.
Saying,
All right, John. We'll roll summer programming.
All right, camp ended last week, good numbers, went very well. Camp staff, it's a long summer, 8 weeks, but, you know, they did a lot of fun events. It really, had, a good time with the kids, so it was, I'd like to thank the staff for pulling that off. It's a very important, program for the community. We keep Camp Nonotuck affordable for families, which is very important. You know, we could easily charge hundreds more for what we offer, but we we want to make sure that we're a community minded and affordable option for families, for sure.
At the last meeting, you had talked about there was like a wait list for the younger kids. and
Yeah,
then
so we opened up the,
did
so we adjusted, and we're looking at it for next year, whether we're going to reduce the senior camp as it is and expand the junior camp. But we're kind of stay flexible with those numbers, as we get through registration. So it might not be right away, whether we decide that or not.
John, what's the age currently for junior versus?
6 to 9, 10 to 13 are the juniors to seniors. So juniors 6 to 9.
Would there be consideration of doing like a overlap? I know when we used to do, like, you'd had a choice.
There
If you're
is,
on that
there is.
border, you
If,
can
when
go
you're
to-
on the border, you
Yeah.
can request to be with your friends or whatever, or stay younger or go older. There is that flexibility. But that gray area is not too crazy.
Right.
But yeah, there is, especially if someone's younger, but they're in the same grade, that kind of thing,
Was there anyone that was on the wait list that didn't get in?
There's a couple of weeks that are sold out completely, junior, senior, everything.
I'm just wondering if we're looking at the ages, right? Like during those weeks or during the whole camp, is it possible to flex the age groupings? Right? Maybe it's only 6 to 8 and then 9 to 12 or 13 or something, whichever way. If we're getting more people on the wait list for the junior camp for the younger camp.
Yeah, then we open it up more, and if there's open, but we can only take so many kids
Right.
per Board of Health and per ratios. So when you take in younger kids, you have to have your staff ratio drops.
Right.
So that it goes to 6 to 1 compared to 8 to 1. So the more younger kids you add to your program, the more staff you have to add to your program. So it's a balancing act. That we do overstaff our program because of vacations and kids go away and sick time, stuff like that. So we do a good job of making sure we're overstaffing to accommodate those types of movements. But yeah,
I like the flexibility that you showed too throughout that you were able to kind of change on a dime and allow more of the younger kids and shorten.
Yeah.
And if you look more into that into the future and maybe approach it in that manner instead of 100% limiting the older kids to a smaller number, because you obviously sold out on a couple of them. It's great
Yeah.
to have that flexibility.
it's it really, when we get into it, we look at our staff schedule, like one week we had 3 kids, 3 staffers that happened to be gone all at the same time.
Sports camp.
Yeah. So you have everybody on hands on deck, going down to fill spots they might not normally do. So, it's a moving target, but it's a successful one for sure. Which is a good thing to have sold out weeks and waiting lists.
Parents appreciate it.
Budgets, are we gonna put that in for summer camps or?
Summer programming, yeah. Everything, I'll get into the pool at the end. We'll talk more about that. Sam had a couple movie nights for summer program, Arts in the Park, events as well, all well attended, all good stuff. So there was a lot going on. Very busy summer, and as we give updates on budget here, you'll hear why. So FY25 budgets, the pickleball park or pickleball CPA request is done. It's been sitting on my desk for close to a month now. There's no one to send it to currently in the city for CPA requests, so they're
I
not
can give
accepting
you the
any.
CPA update. Is there's still no planner? and
So there's still out there. There's supposed to be someone coming on soon for the city. But right now we have a CPA request that's sitting on my desk waiting for where it can go and when they're going to start hosting meetings. They canceled their August
Yeah,
one
August and September.
So,
Oh, I'm sorry, August, September hasn't been canceled yet.
okay, just August so far. So,
August. July.
park grant was submitted. The estimate for the spray park is $529,000. and the park grant was a 360,000 request, 359,700 to be exact. So, we should hear about that late fall, October, November timeframe. But very excited if we can get that moving. A record year for pool attendance, by far, and with like 2 weeks to go in July, we already passed last year's total. And we're open, today's Wednesday, tomorrow's the last day for the pool. After tomorrow, I would have had 1 lifeguard left. Tomorrow, we're running with 3 lifeguards, for the last day. Today, I went down there before here and there was only like 5 people in the pool. This time of year in August, we really do not get any pool activity. We expanded our senior swim hours this week. We ran them Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday with camp not being there. So we offered free swim to the seniors from noon to 1:30 and expanded hours for them for this week. So it's a record year for pavilion revenues as well already. And September is going to be like July. It is crazy how many. We have 3 this Friday, as it is on a Friday. Like Sam was out last week, and that's all I did is take pavilion reservations. It was crazy. So it's going to be a busy September.
Can we pause and go back to the pool?
Sure.
I attended the pool this year. We had a family membership. It was awesome. I just want to say the lifeguards and staff were like so positive. Everything was well controlled. It was really nice for families to go there, and everybody that I've talked to had all positive things to say about the staff as well. And I am wondering, since there has been such an increase in attendance, if we could do some sort of survey to the people who utilize the pool about kind of what went well, what they really appreciated about it, and then also like, what would you be interested in having? I know I asked at our last meeting, like, would we ever offer swim lessons, you know, and things like that, because I think it's a real opportunity to create, you know,
Yeah,
you mentioned that last year, but
Yeah,
I
definitely
think,
we're looking at swim lessons for next year.
Yeah.
It really becomes an hours crunch with lifeguards too as well. So I'm expanding hours and services. You know, for example, one night I had to, because we bring in lifeguards early for senior swim, I actually had to close the pool to the public because they did their 8 hours, and you know, at 6 o'clock we had to close an hour early. There's a lot of juggling like that goes on with schedules and what as well. So yeah, the lifeguards did a great job. They're you know, like I said, most of them are returning lifeguards. They knew the lay of the lands, and people, the amount of comments about how great the pool was and for the staff and just how nice the pool was this year was really good to hear. For
Lines out the door.
I think it would be helpful. Well, and several times actually I was there and I was meeting friends and my friends couldn't come in because we were at capacity. And it was like 2:30, you know, 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Right.
And so, you know, I think, you know, as with all of the things we're talking about and expanding, I think having some sort of survey feedback about, you know, I went to the pool this many times, but I was turned away this many because we were at capacity, you know, maybe increasing, expanding our services. If we have some data to show that this is a community need to get money from the city, to hire more lifeguards, to extend.
It's the capacity of the pool itself.
It's not how many lifeguards
We
are
have
on
a
duty.
capacity of 100 by the Board of Health.
Oh, at the last meeting you had said for every 25 people.
There is a lifeguard, yes. That's why I always have 4. Then we have good rotations, but our Board of Health, it's 100. Yeah, so that's why the capacity is 100.
Yeah, but even increasing hours, and on Mondays it was closed the entire day. And I feel like every Monday was like the sunniest day of the week. I just think it would be great to get that feedback, one, for the people who've worked so hard, like to see what people appreciated about it, but also thinking about the ways in which we can improve and expand, not just, you know, just different offerings. I know the seniors, you know, used it and they have hours 2 days a week. Did they Did that feel like that met their needs? You know, I just think it would be, I think it would be really informative and could also give us data to advocate with the city for more money and funding to be able to kind of make that happen. And I have one small request as someone who doesn't wear a watch in the pool. If we could get a clock to hang on the building.
Yeah, I guess the clock didn't work with the temperature.
It was a thermometer. Yeah, I kept trying to be like, what time is it? But you know, just simple things. Like I think it would be great to get feedback, and I think overwhelmingly it was positive, and so I think that would be nice to hear as well.
By the numbers and the waiting, people waiting outside, it was definitely overwhelmingly positive. For sure.
So is that something like the commission could put together, or is that something, you know, how could we get a survey?
Put it on the Facebook.
We don't have Facebook. The city generates the Facebook. I could have Sam reach out. So we have the contacts for the season pass folks, and even to the senior center.
Eric said his sister wants to donate.
Who wants to donate the clock?
Thank you.
Don't worry, Eric, I got you.
So yeah, that covers pool update as well onto that. She loves the pool, Eric. You guys, in your packet, the memorial bench request.
Sorry, one last thing about the pool. When you have all the numbers from this season, could we see the breakdown of like what the revenue taken in from like the passes and the daily, like if you don't buy a family pass, but you just pay the date, just like how it compares to previous seasons as well?
Yeah, I have it right here. Or actually, I don't have my computer in front of me, but yeah, I have.
Okay,
I keep track of every single day.
Yeah.
Of how much we take in every single day, and then also if there's a weather, like an issue like closed early, you know, I'll note that as well.
Yeah.
Because sometimes, like Sunday, they closed early with the rain and the cold weather and stuff that came through. So, yeah, we're at 29,240 going into this week, which is way above anything we've ever done before at the pool.
That's
One
awesome.
more day to go.
Yeah, it'd be like $10. No one comes this last week.
We are
Nobody.
planning to go before practice, but we have a family pass.
But you got a family pass. Yeah. Right now, it's basically only family passes coming in.
Thank you for going back and answering.
No problem.
And we have a bench request.
Wait, but you were saying you started talking about the pavilions?
The pavilion revenues too, I'll have that as well.
No, but I'll
No,
break it
no,
down.
but you were saying something when I asked you to go back. I just want to make sure.
The bench memorial is the park bench memorial is the next. So our where donation policy works for these types of things, they send a letter of request. You guys take a look at it, see no concerns, we send back, yep, that sounds wonderful. And then we meet with talk about location. So, park maintenance, myself will go out. Okay, this is where they really like. Most times we say yes, sometimes we say, well, maybe over there a little bit is better, those types of things. And then they do the official form with the payment, and then the bench gets ordered, which takes 3 to 4 months to get a bench in right now, still.
Any questions for John? Any concerns?
I think it's cool.
Think it's cool. Do I have a motion?
Motion to accept the, sorry.
I was just gonna ask, it's
you-
not necessarily about this bench, but are there other benches in the park that like, has this been done before?
Yeah,
that
yeah.
Yeah. And so is the bench that gets chosen, like, gonna blend existing with, you know?
That's
like,
why
is that what you do it together?
we have the final say on bench type.
Okay.
So we try to make sure it's uniform throughout the park. It's one of the things we've done in the last few years to streamline this and say, okay, because some folks have, you know, may want something a little different that doesn't fit with what we're trying to do.
And any other questions?
Motion to accept the.
All right. Desiree makes the motion.
I'll second.
Okay, Brian will second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Eric?
I approve.
I approve.
Harrison too, okay. We good? All right, you want to get into the maintenance building? I
Yep.
know okay.
Yep, so maintenance building update, had a meeting with, so the city's been short-staffed on many departments, but we did not have a building inspector since, I think, around June 1st. Board of Health has been out since the first week of June as well. But we have a part-time building inspector who also worked for the city years ago. And we had a meeting, myself, the mayor, the building inspector, DPW, to lay out the plans moving forward. I have submitted costs to the mayor for 2 storage containers and office space for the maintenance crew at this point, so we can unload everything out of the maintenance buildings and put them into storage containers. And then provide an office space for them to have a workspace, gathering space, and something that is, they can work out of as needed. So I believe the mayor's on vacation this week, but by next week, things are moving quickly on this. I also have, I got a quote for taking down the building. It was $9,200 for a company to come, and this was the building inspector's recommendation for a company that deals with this. They take care of permitting, they take care of everything, soup to nuts. We don't have to worry about doing anything on it. So once we get approval on that, we will look to get that building taken down and removed this fall.
It's just the building, the garage plus the building, right?
Just the garage is fine, just the building.
That whole existing maintenance shop.
Right, so that, what was the garage,
Yeah.
where they do the work, all that.
All that's gone.
Yeah.
Everything will be gone. And then we're actually started taking the barn boards off of the shed structure that is ready to fall down as well. So we're doing that in-house, taking the barn boards down, stacking them aside. And then we'll do as much as we can do on that removal until get to a certain point. And then I'll probably go back to this company when we get to that point and see how much more would be to take.
So just to close the loop, our last meeting, we discussed the letter that we were going to send to the mayor, which we got all finished, ready to go. And at that point, they condemned the building, so we didn't,
The next
that
day.
letter was not submitted, needless to say. So
Things got set in
Just to keep
motion pretty
everything
quick after,
wrapped up.
so there was.
Thank you all for your comments and all the work that was done, but
So things are moving, and then we're going to put together a bid package this fall. So try to get something out. The mayor wants to get something on the capital plan for city council and whether it's using free cash. But we've been in conversations quite a bit over the last month, and even prior to what was out there. The mayor and I had a meeting 2 weeks prior to that to discuss the fall of what we were doing in the fall for this. So it was on the radar about getting storage containers and office space and taking care of how we're going to work.
Quick question on the 9,200. You mentioned they obviously take care of the permit. Has any asbestos testing ever done on?
So that's where they take care of
So
all,
then
they do all the
9,200 gets covered.
checklist. Yeah, they take care of all the checklist on everything that needs to be done, all the administrative stuff. So for taking it down, they do everything else on top of it too. There'll be no permitting costs because it's through the city. So they're saving money on that, obviously.
Like, potentially have abatement valve?
But yeah, they have, I think they're something like a 10 thing checklist of the stuff they take care of, and that's on there. So
How much is it for the 2 storage containers and office space, and where is that?
we're looking at buying them outright. Is what I'm waiting for approval. It's $4,500 each plus $279 to have them dropped on site. So just under 4,800. Working with DPW as well. We talked about renting them. DPW really has a need for a storage container as well. And it's something that we would keep one of them because we could use it for sure as well. So it would be short money for the city to have two of those, instead of building something, another shed or a structure. So we're looking to go that way. And the office space is 500 and change. I think it's $514 a month. Yeah, $514 a month for the rental of the office space.
Any other questions on that? Any concerns?
Glad to hear it's moving forward.
Okay.
Yeah. Timing.
I'm sorry, did you say where it's going? Like where they're gonna be able to have their office space?
It's going to be, the office space will go where we can fit it, but right now we're looking between the current building and our office. It's a 20-foot office trailer, so it can fit in there. It's 24 with the trailer hitch on it.
And the storage, will the storage containers be on site at the park too?
Yeah. Yep, they'll be on site. We're still kind of figuring out where we're gonna plop those. I think that's part of the reason to get one of those sheds taken out. We have a metal dumpster as well, that I had dropped a couple weeks ago, for anything that's in those old sheds that can, busted rakes, things like that have been sitting around that we need to be collecting. So they're gonna get rid of that stuff too.
Anything else on the
No.
maintenance building? New City, John?
Okay, new city improvement projects. So Johanna's on this call as well. She works in the planning office. This is, so we have selected Kleinfelder for the new city improvements. So this is as part of that is looking at design plans for the playground structures on the corner of Federal, and then in the one behind the school, the old Parsons Street School. So there's a steering committee that's being formed, and we're going to look at past surveys that were done. There was a lot of work done in this area, as Jeff would know. And outreach there were community outreach sessions that happened. But those were 3 to 4 years ago, probably now. And they, times have changed, so some people that might have wanted to have more smaller playground equipment there, they might they might be looking at bigger playground equipment. So it's looking at what's done in the past, meeting as a group, and then we have in October, the last Saturday in October, we'll have an outreach event for that area, and bring the community in and look at what's been talked about, but also what they might be interested in now and where we want to go with plans. So the folks from Kleinfelder will be on site. Their team that deals with playgrounds will be here as well to help us lead that. They're going to do fun activities for families and kids and those types of things for that day. So we'll be looking to really get the word out to folks, that this event's going on. They're usually very well received, for sure, by the community.
Anything else on that?
Yeah, we have to get the steering committee together in the next, within another week or so, on that. So
Steering committee for this project.
for this project. So 2 commissioners, Eric has volunteered. He lives in that neighborhood, and Jessica lives in that neighborhood as well. And I sent her an email, but she's traveling. So we think those 2 will represent, and then we're looking for 2 community members that have been active, through this process as well, that live in that area.
Anything else? Questions, concerns? All right. We can hold, are we into old and continuing business? Anybody have anything?
I got nothing.
I just want to have a quick question. Before you had mentioned, and I don't know if this is where this falls, so I apologize, we can talk after if not, but you had mentioned like the city controls the Facebook for the,
So we don't have a Easthampton Park and Rec Facebook anymore. The city's trying to consolidate it and have it come out of the mayor's office. So any posts like events, things like that now go to the mayor's office, and it goes on the general city of Easthampton, Facebook.
is there a reason for that that you
They're
know?
they're trying to bring one concise message so it's out to everybody, so some people might not see it just based on our site, instead of looking at like planning's web,
So
Facebook
they're
page.
looking at going to one website.
One
and have everything on
Facebook where all the
Facebook.
messaging is getting channeled
So you
into
could probably
into
see
that. And then that also takes away some of the potential feedback of, going back and forth. It's just message out on Facebook.
All the same message.
Yeah.
And my second question, who does the lining in the park of like the parking spaces? Is that DPW? Is
DPW
park?
did that for us,
That's
yeah. They came and volunteered their time.
Anything else?
Well, not volunteered their time, but took away from other stuff they could be doing to get that done for us.
Do we have anything else? Any other comments, questions?
I mean, are they still planning on coming back to the soccer fields and at least throwing lines in the actual parking lot? Similar to how baseball is like fully lined and people park normal, whereas again, we're kind of continuing to cram more things back there. And by no fault of people wanting to protect their cars, there are no lines indicating where somebody should park in that parking lot besides right next to the shed. And then the handicap parking spot is not painted again. So now there's really no handicap spots there. And then people just park like 1.5 spots instead of a normal parking spot. So it limits it even more. And now we're going to be going into fall season with soccer and buses being down there again. And I don't know if there's any plan for them to actually go back and line the actual parking lot itself rather than just the 4 spots in front of the shed.
I'm sure there is, but I don't like to speak on.
Yeah, that's why I was
Yeah.
asking who to go.
Yeah, so we asked them, like, you do us a favor and,
Mhm.
and when you guys have the line painting out, and they'll come over and do those types of things. So,
Yeah.
we can definitely put the request in, the ask again that, if you guys get some time because they don't take it out, when they get that out there, they're doing lines, they're doing things, and they're like, oh yeah, but while we have all this equipment out, so they put it on a big trailer and everything, we'll get over to your place and we'll do what we can do, and then they load it up.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess I don't know if that's something the commission could do, just to like hit all of the parking spots in Nonotuck Park. I mean, there's some that are perfect and obviously were painted, and then while they were there, I don't know why they didn't hit the actual parking.
Yeah, I'm not
Is
sure.
there, do you have any idea? Is there any schedule or? you really
No,
don't-
we're on theirs. We used to pay for it. We used to outsource it, and it was really, really expensive.
Yeah.
So we kind of take DPW's schedule and work with it and do the best we can, because it's over $2,000 to do the entire park out of pocket.
Yeah, I'm gonna go to the city Facebook.
Yeah,
That's a good price.
yeah,
$2,000?
yeah. That was
$2,000 that's a
that
good
was
price.
a really good price. It was local guys that used to work.
That's a
for
really good price. Yeah.
But we don't have $2,000 to spend on mining.
Yeah.
We'd rather have DPW do it for free.
All right, anything else under, old continuing business?
I just had one question. I noticed we were talking about the soccer fields. There was a water gun out there. I
Yeah,
don't know if
where did those come from and why were they there?
there's sprinklers, right?
Yeah,
Oh,
those
yeah.
are ours. They're
Were they wrong?
there was a problem with the irrigation system for soccer.
That explains a lot, thank you.
So we had to get the water guns out.
Gotcha.
Yeah, there's a lot of dry, dead spots. Is there any, I mean, is it
They
fixed
fixed
by
it.
now or?
Yeah, they fixed it.
Okay.
It was,
Yeah, a lot of that grass is killed.
it wasn't cheap, and it was a lot of man hours by George to get it done.
It was
George knows the sprinklers.
No, this was the main
Oh, the main pump.
cage. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a backflow issue. It took them a long time to and research to get it done, but he got it done, of course. But yeah, so in the meantime, they were using the water cannons, which are not very effective.
Yeah.
They don't do as well as the other ones are zoned out. They're perfect.
All right.
What is the timeline for increasing the parking at the soccer fields too? Is it in line with, like, will it come before the pickleball? or
Hopefully
after?
before, same time is when we can work it all in one big bundle, for sure.
And I don't know if this is a Parks and Rec question, but, so we have the soccer complex and the EYSA kind of runs the hub that's there, and we have bathrooms and we pay for the supplies to put in the bathrooms and the cleaning. And since the pickleball courts have been there, obviously people from the pickleball are using the bathrooms. And I guess who could we reach out to about?
Your fellow commissioner,
Okay.
Carolyn's the
Okay.
pickleball liaison.
Yeah, and just thinking
Or just
about,
the maintenance of the buildings in general as to like what areas of the park is the park's employees taking care of and maintaining, and which ones are like, again, I know baseball fields, for instance, are being lined by the park, whereas we have to line our own fields. And why is there a difference between what certain groups are getting versus the other ones?
I don't know if they've ever asked.
Desiree is officially asking, so she doesn't have to do it on her lunch break.
I know they do the big fields. We do the big fields.
Correct.
For the high school.
The high school fields.
Yeah.
But what?
I think lining the baseball fields is a little easier than staying on top of the soccer fields, or especially when they're broken into 6 different small fields. And
Well, it's more of the game fields though, if anything. I mean, I don't know, that's, I guess, something down the road, but there's definitely a disconnect, I think, versus different areas of the town get certain benefits, I guess, or different groups in town are getting benefits that are
Doesn't the baseball pay for all the supplies?
soccer does too.
soccer pays for all
yeah.
the supplies.
And baseball,
And we
baseball,
paid
yeah,
15
baseball, we
grand.
charge their stuff. to
But it's,
them,
I
and
mean,
we
it's
charge it.
even like the grass stuff, we paid 15 grand to, treat the grass, and it's just dead because obviously that wasn't your fault. Obviously the irrigation system broke, but just simple stuff of asking like what the grass seed is so that we'll just throw grass seed down because we know you guys are busy, but there's no, feedback as to how we can help. And it's the same with baseball. Baseball is willing to help maintain and with those fields and take care of some of the fields. If there's like a rainstorm that comes through and you guys can't get to it, there's people that potentially could partner and get an actual lesson. And I know we don't want like a bunch of people having access to certain things because they'll screw up the fields. And if they rake it wrong, I get all that aspect. But if you can maybe train 1 or 2 people that are on the board or something that will be able to help take some of the pressure off you guys if a storm comes through, to be able to like clean off a baseball field and be able to use it for the game that day instead of canceling it. And then it was actually fine, but you just didn't have the staff to get there. So I know
I
that's
used
something.
to
One
carry
this
a
weekend.
rake and put it in the back of my truck. That's what my picture.
They've been told they have to stay off it by the park. So,
They changed the rules.
yeah,
Yeah,
because,
so the
well,
bounds,
because there was
whatever you needed to do.
somebody screwed it up. So there was a reason why the rule was changed, but
Right, they
Maybe
went out
we
there
can-
with, when it was water and they shoved all the clay and everything onto
And
the
then
grass.
Little League
Yeah.
gets a $3,000 bill for
Yeah.
clay in the spring.
exactly, but
Right.
there might be something that maybe, again, depending on the certain parents or people that are actually on the board that could get in actual training versus somebody go down there with their broom from their kitchen and just throwing
Yeah.
stuff around. So just, again, it takes some of the pressure off of you guys. It saves the headache of trying to reschedule a game or, people not being able to get their stuff in. So we're just trying to help everybody, I guess.
Okay.
Well, and I think it's like more of like equity among the different people using the groups and knowing who's responsible for what and who's paying for what. And, if we're taking a look at this and looking at if there's inequity, do we need to hire more park staff to be able to create something more equitable where whatever's happening for one group will be able to happen for the other? Because I feel like a continuing issue is we only have so much time in the day and so many staff. And so if we're going to look at kind of a larger perspective about how can we create more equity, that's what we need to look at as well. And again, that's like data to bring to the city and the mayor to say, these are the issues, this is why, here's the data and how much this group has been paying versus this group, and we need this many employees, and this is what it'll cost, and I think it's worth taking time to do that, because you know, like you said, and everyone said, we're just expanding.
Yeah.
Nothing is condensing. We are not asking John and his staff to do less. Have we ever asked you to do less?
They're still just Sam and I. All this expansion, 15 years later, it's just the two of us.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, and we looked, and I did the look, I did some more research. Northampton's got 7 people in their park and rec department.
Yeah, they don't even deal with
Wow.
maintenance,
7.
just in their administrative.
And I did a little more. They've got 25,000 kids registered to school, go to school in Northampton, and there's 15,000 to go to school here in Easthampton.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, exactly like you just said, we are absolutely growing. Every single sport is growing. We're
No,
bringing
Rachel
more
doesn't-
sports in
even
with
for me, I can
pickleball.
figure that one
and,
out.
you know, we just need to start planning a little bit for the future and see what we can bring to the mayor to prove that we need that more money, which circling back to the pool, it'd be interesting to see the income that you've brought in so that maybe we can bring that partnership as well of, listen.
I handed out
We
to city
continue to
council and the mayor
expand,
every
you
year.
need to give us
They,
more.
they get the full numbers every year.
We got you.
All right, is there anything else? Anybody else?
You.
I think we gotta look at scheduling the next meeting.
You want
Want to talk about that now? Let's do it. Let me get on my calendar.
We're gonna schedule it on a different day than,
Yeah, the question's
Yeah.
been not to be on a Wednesday, correct?
Yes, correct.
So,
we have to look at what's best for the Park and Rec Commission first.
example, I think
It's-
this might be, because I can't do Tuesdays, okay, right now. Thursdays, I can, any other day of the week, I'm pretty much okay, except obviously for Fridays, but why don't we send out something to the commission, John? And we can get some feedback, what days are better for everyone. I mean, I think the week, are we okay, everybody okay with the third week of the
City councilor's here. He can tell you what nights they meet.
They meet the first and third.
third? And that's why that's the.
Yeah.
So
On
we've
Wednesdays.
been the third since I joined the committee 123 years
Oh, yeah.
ago. So we can, I still would look at the third week, but I guess.
Why, just keep it on Wednesday and go to the
Just
second or the
yeah,
fourth
okay.
week.
Okay, we'll set- we have Wednesdays, okay.
If we do the second, it leaves the.
You usually have like committee meetings, like the smaller committees, like the finance committee. Just finance. And which one do they meet on? Do you know?
It depends. Like now, no money, so.
That's a good reason not to meet.
Yeah.
We might want to be here when the finance is here.
So, all right,
The
so we got
second Wednesday?
And usually.
11th?
Finance is at 5 p.m. So.
Do the 11th, do you want to do the 25th?
If we do, no, we should do it earlier because we want to potentially do a field trip to the park. Towards the end of September. beginning
And,
of October.
skateboard guys.
This would be just for basically skateboard. Dog park would not be available for September.
So that would be, so we can do
No,
the
no.
11th? Everybody okay with the 11th? I'm hearing 11th,
9/11.
9/11, 6 p.m. And we're gonna have it here. That was Crest Skate Park had, we have it here, no issues with that. So we'll go, next meeting, 9/11. Eric, you okay with that?
Yeah,
My
he said he
brother
was
in
away
Boston?
last week, so he's fine.
There you
Yep, he's good. All right, so next meeting will be 9/11, 6 p.m. Here.
Here.
John's got
I'll
all,
book it, yeah.
John's got all this stuff set up now. He's like a regular IT person.
So you guys hid for me way over there.
All right, so with that, I guess I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
Yes. Second.
You got to jump in there, kid. Way to go. All right, so meeting adjourned at, oh jeepers, I got it right here in front of me, 7:59.
This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.